Yo, average use Slo-Pitch. Today we're getting a chance to bring you out the Proton After Dark Hot Butter. I know a lot of guys have been waiting on these. We've been waiting on ours since pretty much they opened pre-orders. Got our first one in, we've got a handful more on pre-order. We'll see when those end up shipping. But honestly, one of the better paint jobs I've seen from Proton in recent kind of memory. This one is a 26 ounce, 1 ounce envelope that we're swinging. Again, if you have used Proton before, you know, and if you haven't, well, you'll find out. But you can kind of pick the envelopes on them. So you can go half ounce, full ounce, or balanced on these as well, and then obviously whatever weight you want. So first thing I noticed with this one is this does not have the tack barrel any longer. So if you're somebody who like that tack barrel, there isn't one here on the After Dark hot butter, so just keep that in mind. But we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna get about 100 or so swings between the three of us with all Pro-Ms out here. At the field, it's about 80 degrees, so obviously plenty warm enough, no issues as far as that goes. And from there, we'll go ahead, final compression, final thoughts. All right, real quick for those swings here on the Proton After Dark Hot Butter. Let's see where it's testing at. These Protons should still be, if you've looked at the website, pretty much right at 275. You've probably heard us talk about in the past. If you ever get one that starts lower than that, and I mean like significantly, like closer to 250 in the wrapper, just know it's usually because it's kind of like a dud is what we'd call it, or came out of kind of the factory wrong. But with this one right at 275, we're expecting to basically throw our 50 to 100 swings. Again, we're using Pro-Ms. I would recommend breaking this thing in and rotating with 52s, as we always mentioned. But we're gonna do our 50 to 100 swings with those, and then we'll have velo kind of running from there, and then get you guys final compression, final thoughts.
96 miles per hour.
The one good news is the Proton sound's always been nice. I do like that kind of almost wood bat sound.
95 miles per hour.
Easily got.
96 miles per hour. 94 miles per hour. 102 miles per hour.
There's the sweet spot.
93 miles per hour.
It's, I'm telling you, the sweet spot's not larger now.
Yeah, okay, it's real hit or miss.
Because that definitely wasn't quite handle, because they sting with handle, but it wasn't good.
95 miles per hour.
Yeah, that sounded soft. Towards the end, a little past sweet spot right now. Definitely not the forgiving spot.
102 miles per hour. 89 miles per hour.
He's definitely jumping off well.
99 miles per hour.
Water.
98 miles per hour.
Nice, 98 knuckle. Yeah, so through the first almost 50 swings, it's definitely starting to open up a little more. Sweet spot's getting bigger. Pretty good for forgiveness. You can tell it's stiff when you get lower, which is expected. No issues other than some webbing, which is normal, no issue anyway. So let these next two guys swing. Final thoughts, final compression.
71 miles per hour. 74 miles per hour. 80 miles per hour.
See, I feel like that.
80 miles per hour.
Like 80 when no.
All right, let's go ahead and see how our Proton After Dark Hot Butter test started at 275. We're at 100 and about, well, I think it said 105 on the pocket radar swings on this thing. So again, with Pro-M, so right where we want to be. We've let it cool down for about 20 minutes since we swung it, put in the shade while we were picking up balls. If for some reason this number's like crazy off, or low, I should say, I will let it cool down and get a second test kind of in the garage and post that here in a second. So yeah, and that was kind of what I was worried about with it being in the heat. So we're sitting right at like 230 right now. So what I'm gonna do is take this thing home, throw it in my house, let it sit for the rest of the day, let it cool down, because again, this sun is kind of, even though it's only about 85 out here, this sun is hot for sure. And let this barrel cool. Yeah, pretty consistent there. So we'll talk a little more on the final thoughts, and then stay tuned here in a second. Before the final thoughts, I'll throw up that second compression test. All right, it's been about 24 hours since we swung it over there at the fields. Figure we'll throw it back in the tester real quick now that's been inside, both the tester and the bat, out of that heat, no repetitive swings, all that kind of stuff, and see where it's testing at. Let that sit on 0. 0. And we're still sitting right at 220. So yeah, the compression dropped a little quick there on this one. For those that aren't aware, with Proton, if you get a hold of them after, well, if you get a hold of them when your bat fails, if it fails within a reasonable amount of time, so kind of that warranty period, you just kind of let them know, and they will end up replacing it due to that as well. But yeah, we're right about 220 or less on both sides. Again, we looked, 112 swings is what we had on there, all Pro-Ms, standard kind of Razos and ZNs. All right, we're field swings velo and final compression complete here with the After Dark Hot Butter. As you saw there a second ago, it did fail compression here at the field. However, as I mentioned, I'm going to do another test back at the garage here later today. So obviously I don't have the details for that here for the final thoughts portion of it, but I will go ahead and drop a pinned comment on the YouTube video. So at the end of this, if you go ahead and look in there, there's going to be a comment talking about kind of how that second compression test went, aside from just seeing what you saw here a minute ago, and then just kind of some details on that. But from there, first thing, as I mentioned in the beginning, tack barrel's kind of gone on this one, which I don't know how much it really affects performance. I'm not a bat engineer or anything like that, but I didn't kind of feel like there were a slight performance drop off on this model versus some of the other ones, but it kind of felt the same. So whether that's driven from the tack barrel, I don't know. It is a little bit warmer today than normal. I mean, when the last Proton we swung, the actual hot butter, I believe, and the Legacy, it was about 70 degrees. Today is about 85 now is what we're at. But we do keep everything in the garage. We keep the balls in, in the garage, in the house. Everything's left in the house, temperature controlled. And then out here on these hotter days, we only go through the bag once. We don't let the ball sit out there in the sun and cook. So we still expect pretty much normal performance there. So reasoning for the drop-off performance, I don't really have one for you necessarily. Sweet spot though, when you caught it, everyone agreed the sweet spot was great, but it's not super forgiving. So I am hoping, and again, you've kind of already seen it, but hoping that when we get the second test, that compression comes back up to nearly like 260-ish would be my hope. So we know there's still some break-in room to really open the barrel up. With that, no issues as far as seams go. There's a decent amount of webbing already, and I can really see it obviously in the yellow portion of the little butter emoji or whatever you want to call it. But other than that, a little soft when you catch it high. You get the normal stiffness, you catch it low. That's to be expected. Again, sweet spot's pretty much dead center on there, and is absolute gas. But we were seeing about 5 to almost 10 mile per hour drop-offs anywhere outside of that sweet spot. So really hoping that opens up more with swings. And regardless of where, as long as it's at 250 or above, when we test it again, we know there's room for improvement, because the Protons, once they sit at 250, will stay typically, and it'll still continue to open up. It's kind of going to rotate that barrel around. So we'll see kind of how that performs there. Again, if you're going to pick one of these up, I recommend BPing with 52s, rotating, and use the 52s to bring your compression down, because that'll give you even more swings to really open the fibers up. But anyone who's a Proton fan, you still get the traditional Proton feel, sound, all that kind of stuff. Like I said, slight drop off in performance in my opinion, but there can always be different factors for that as well. And it'll be interesting to see kind of if this no tack barrel's the way of the future for Proton, or if maybe this is just something they tried for this model. We'll try reaching out maybe to even Charles and you just talk to him. I'm sure he's got kind of more of the engineering side behind tack versus no tack, and see if we can get that figured out. So if we get additional details, pay attention to the comments on this videos. I'll pin one up there so that you can kind of see that. If we have info on that, if we don't, maybe I'll even pin one up just so you know we tried and we don't have info on that just yet. But with that being said, hopefully you enjoyed the video. We appreciate supporting the channel. If you want to pick one of these up, use code ADS on Proton. It'll drop off, I believe, $70 on it. I know they're starting to ship these out, so it shouldn't be nearly as long of a wait as some of the original orders at that point, but also I can't tell you exactly what the wait time would be. So if you have any questions, reach out, let us know. Thanks for supporting the channel. Have a great day.